Hello, my name is Philip. I am 53 years old, well, almost. I live in Colorado, USA, and I live outside of the capital, Denver, Colorado. And I'm making this video as a direct response to some things I see on YouTube, what Europeans think of America, what the English think of America. And I'll say right off the bat, one reason why Americans can be naive about the rest of the world is because in our school system, they don't really teach geography. Not even about the U.S. It's not covered very much. It's covered, but not much. Another reason is, I think because we're such a big country and over 300 million people live here. So it kind of have a tendency, we have a lot going on in America. Another thing is, it's not going to be, we actually, if you meet your average American, generally speaking, they're going to be polite. They're not going to be rude on purpose. They might be rude accidentally, but they're not going to be rude on purpose. But yes, there are people like that. Here, of course, there's people like that everywhere. And now, what are you saying? Well, what do you know about Europeans? Well, I'll tell you. I worked for a company called Club Med for over 3.5 years. And I worked in Colorado at the Club Med here at the ski resort. I worked at Club Med in the Caribbean, and I worked at the Club Med in Mexico. Grand Turks, Keos Islands, the Caribbean, and I worked in Guaymas, Sonora Bay, in Mexico, in Copper Mountain. So I've met a few Europeans in my life. A few. Not to mention the other Europeans I've met traveling. Or, they were traveling, and I was meeting them when I was living in the mountains and working at the ski resorts. And I've even had two males from England as roommates once for one winter. And I had a roommate that was from Australia. Now, granted, roommates, I was in my 20s. But anyway, here's the thing. I think Europeans misunderstand America and Americans. First off, it's kind of humorous to think, like, if you base this off our TV shows, or especially our comedies, you're getting a wrong perception of America. And if you see the cartoons like The Simpsons and The Family Guy, we are making fun of ourselves. Those people who write those programs, who do the voice acting on those programs, we're basically making fun of ourselves. That's what we're doing. We find it funny, and we take the stereotypes and just amp them up, amplify them, make them way more than they really are. Another thing is about the South. The South, I think, gets kind of a bad rap in Europe, in England. They see everybody down there as backward hillbilly hicks. Well, there are a few of those there, but they're everywhere. And they're also in Europe. You just may have another name for them, but backward redneck hillbilly hicks. Yes, they do exist, but nowhere as numerous as I think Europeans think. If you really get to know a lot of people from the South, you will notice a few things. One, you just take a typical Southern man, when he introduces himself, he holds out his hand, and so will a lady. They're reserved in some ways, and they're very adventurous in others. But overall, you will find Southern people to be very, very friendly, polite people, and just good people. Another group of people that we get lumped into is a group of people on the West Coast in the southern part of a state called California. And it is safe to say that LA is a city-state unto itself close. I mean, it is crazy. But, you back in the 80s and 90s, you heard the Valley Girl and you hear the Dude and Surf Up and all that stuff. That is really just a small percentage of the culture of Southern California. Southern California has some really cool people in there. Northern California is, you get up in the north, you start getting more into the agriculture. You get into the big, huge forests like the redwoods and sequoias. And you're pretty much just going right back into America. Just middle America. Oregon, Washington, unbelievable, beautiful states. Just unbelievable how beautiful those states are, especially on the western part, because most people don't know this, and a lot of people who live in America don't know this, is the eastern parts of Washington and Oregon are desert. A lot of people don't know that. You take a state like where I'm from, Colorado, which I'm very happy and proud to be living in Colorado, and I've lived in the mountains, and I've lived on the western slope, and I've lived where I'm living now on the eastern plains, northeastern plains. You can't say there's a lot of beautiful scenery here. It's not. And it's flat, and it's dusty, and often windy, but it's still a nice place. The other part of America is it was kind of famous for almost like the southern accent of the Southerners. It's heavily populated by people of Norwegian descent, like I am, and German and Finnish and Sweden. And that is getting into states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, some Wisconsin probably thrown in there, and you will hear a distinct, different accent. Don't you know? My dad was from North Dakota, and even after being out of North Dakota his whole life after he got out of the Army in World War II, if he was upset or angry, you would hear that North Dakota accent come back. Then you kind of have the middle states, Chicago, Chicago's a city, not a state. Indiana, Illinois, where Chicago is. Michigan. Then, Indiana. You're just getting into, that's the Midwest. So why am I bringing this up? Because in the U.S., where you're from and where you grow up and who you interact with is you're going to have a difference of opinion. Like somebody in New York and that area is going to see things different than somebody from Utah and Texas, and very much different. Even how they vote, That's why we have that red and blue states, the Republicans and Democrats. And so when you talk about Americans, it's hard to put Americans into one thing. It's hard because we have so much diversity, and then like the rest of the world will call us Yanks. The only Yankees in America are the New York Yankees baseball team and the people who are from an area called New England. Did you know that? Yankees come from New England. If you're living in California and you were born in California and you have family in California and your kids now are from California, you're not a Yankee. Okay? You're not a Yankee. Yankees come from New England. Okay. I hope that clears that up. As far as our speech and dialects, we have the Southern, but when you go to the South, somebody from Texas has a different type of way of speaking than somebody from Georgia. It's hard to tell the difference, even for Americans that aren't from there, but trust me, somebody from Georgia can hear somebody from Texas speaking. He knows he's not from Georgia. Where I'm from, Colorado, there's really not much of an accent. It's kind of a generalization. It's general American, I guess you would say, and I'm including probably, Colorado, Utah, Kansas, Wyoming, Nebraska, Idaho, and then maybe even New Mexico and Arizona. You don't hear, it's just kind of a everyday speak. It doesn't really have much of an accent. So when people talk about America, you're talking about a huge, diverse group of people. It's not just the people of European descent. It's the people who came from Africa. It's the people who came from Asia. It's the people who came from all over the world. People came in. And we always haven't gotten along. And we've had second-class citizenship in this country to people who are descended from people from Africa, blacks, African Americans. Sometimes as a person, it's truth. We don't even know what to call black people because some black people want to be called African Americans. Some black people want to be called black. Some black people just want to be called Americans. Amazing. They just want it. I'm American. And I agree with them. I totally agree with them. I think that I don't care what nationality, what race, what religion. If you're born in this country, you're American. If you're born in the United States, you're American. If you take the test and pass it and take the oath, you're American. And yes, to be an American, if you're not born in America and you want to become American, you do have to take a test. A lot of Americans don't know that, but you do. There's a test. Fine. The other thing is, I guess I just want to say, is that when you see what does America or what does Europeans think about America, I try to explain it into general terms that you really can't lump us into one group of people. You can't really lump us by our TV shows and our movies. And please don't judge us by people like Britney Spears. And Justin Bieber, by the way, if I'm saying his name right, isn't American. He's Canadian. I mean, they gave us Michael J. Fox. They gave us some other really cool people, but it had to be Justin Bieber. He's not American. He's Canadian. So blame Canada. But Canada did give us Michael J. Fox, and that is a cool guy. That is an awesome guy, I think. I don't know him personally, but I've seen him interviewed, and I know what he's going through with this Parkinson's disease, and that jackass Rush Limbaugh went after him. I think Rush Limbaugh, whatever his name is the jackass, and Michael J. Fox, who now actually is an American citizen, by the way. I know that because I saw him say that on TV. Anyway, have a good day. I'm going to post this. I'm going to see if I get any hits. So I'm going to post this under what do Europeans think of America, Americans, the response. You have a great day.